So, solar update videos. I'm going to do them monthly now. I began to realize that since my rate changes every month because of the way my provider does it, it would be more accurate to look back on the bill and go over the month that way. And since I just got the January bill, I figured it would be easy to just start fresh in the beginning of the year. One change I'm going to make that I should have been doing earlier is all the details and information about my solar panel and the connections and the inverters and location, all of that's going to be in the description from now on. Also, instead of looking at every single day, I'll be looking more at averages. I'll be comparing that to nationwide averages. Also, since I own a Tesla, I'm going to be using a little more electricity than someone who has a gas-powered car. So we'll look at how much I'm saving charging the car as compared to what I would have spent on gas. And we'll compare my local electricity rate to the national average, as well as the local gas prices to the national average. And we'll see how much I'm saving, and we'll see how much I guess you would save if you were within that average. I want to look at 2 weeks specifically. It got really cold. We had to turn up the heat, and we used up a lot of electricity. And I think it was the next week where my wife had to leave, so it was just me and Kristen at the time, and the temperatures went up, and there's just 2 people in the house, so we ended up using a lot less electricity. We'll find out which days was the best and which days was the worst as compared to the temperature and the weather.
So pretty much any day it's below the mid 40s. This is the type of consumption we'll have running the heater. Maybe at some point in the future we'll upgrade to a more energy efficient heater, but it'll still probably use more electricity than most of our appliances. Even though my consumption was up, my production was pretty good for the day. Monday was a much better day than Sunday, but the main difference was we were at work and we weren't at home all day, so we ended up using a lot less electricity. Tuesday, it was below freezing for just about the whole day, and the sun was only out for a few moments. This is one of the worst days I've ever had, but it's not the worst. The award for worst day goes to Wednesday, January 17th. Even though I had to go to work, and even though we had great production, I was still 111 kilowatt hours in the hole. My wife did have to stay home all day because she, like most other people, couldn't get to work because there was ice all over the roads. January 18th was another good production day, but it was below freezing and we were running the heater. Friday, as usual, when it gets warmer, our consumption went down a little bit. And if you look at Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the temperatures went up a little bit and our consumption went steadily down. It's still a lot higher than I would like it to be. It was also partly cloudy, so the production wasn't really there today. The same thing happens on Saturday. The temperature goes up a little more, the consumption goes down a little more. Again, not much of a day for production. It was cloudy, it was rainy, and that's just what happens. So at this point, I think our winter is pretty much over. We haven't really had a cold day or a day below freezing since this week. But going into Sunday, the trend continues. The temperature goes up and the consumption comes down. It was another cloudy day, so the production was still kind of sketchy. Monday was the last of 5 consecutive days of the temperature increasing, and again the consumption went down a little more. Lots of rain clouds that day, didn't produce much. Lots of clouds in the morning, so my east-facing panels really didn't produce a lot. Tuesday was the day my wife had to catch her flight. And I don't think it was her fault at all, but this just happened to be my best overall day for the bill period. I was only 4 kilowatt hours behind my consumption. I didn't have a day this period where I produced more than I consumed, but this was as close as I came. This Wednesday was one of the few days where it got colder and I actually consumed less energy. If this had been a sunny day, this probably would have been my best overall day. Thursday, the 34.3 kilowatt hours produced is my best production day of the build period. I expect to see a lot more days like this when we get to the summer and we have close to 14 hours of daylight. Friday, we had a cloudy day, so the production really wasn't there, but the consumption didn't get out of hand, so I wasn't that far down as far as net energy goes. And apparently on Saturday, the sun was on vacation. Okay, so I was wrong earlier. This last day I want to point out would have been my best overall day had this been a sunny day. Having only consumed 20.8 kilowatt hours, I could have easily produced 10 to up to 16 more kilowatt hours than I consumed that day.
So a couple notes about the January build cycle. There were 32 days in the build cycle. On the first day of the cycle, the sunrise was at 7:02 and the sunset was at 5:14. On the last day of that cycle, the sunrise was at 6:52 and the sunset was at 5:44. So we gained 40 minutes of daylight from the first day to the last day of the build cycle, and the average amount of daylight for the build cycle was 10.5 hours. The average temperature was 49 degrees. We had 12 sunny days, 4 partly cloudy days, and 16 cloudy days. So there are 16 days in there where I didn't produce much at all. I produced a total of 635 kilowatt hours. Of that, I exported 420 to the grid. I consumed 1,911 kilowatt hours. And of that, 1,694 was imported from the grid.
The numbers at the bottom show some comparisons to last year and the previous month's build cycle, but I don't think a comparison to last year would be quite fair since I didn't have solar panels at the time. I added the normal rate into the wholesale rate at the bottom, which they don't include for some reason, and you need those two numbers to multiply times the 432 kilowatt hours that I sent out to the grid to get the two negative numbers at the top right, which I'm credited for sending energy back to the grid. I also put a square around the 32 days that we had in the build cycle.
The good thing is I have net metering and I get paid dollar for dollar for it. So whether I'm sending the solar production back to the grid or I'm using it myself, the savings will be the same. So for the 635 kilowatt hours I produced, that will have saved me $53.13. And that's based on this month's rate of 8.366 cents per kilowatt hour. I had a slight increase in my rate for this bill period from the last period, 0.258 cents per kilowatt hour. So I'm paying about 1 cent more for every 4 kilowatt hours. So 66% of the solar I produced, I sent back to the grid, and 88% of the energy I used, I took in from the grid. Also, one thing that you won't see in my bill is about $15 in fees that they decided to not describe in the bill, but they are there. So if the numbers don't look like they add up, they do. It's just, that's the way they chose to have the bill laid itself out. It also doesn't show the full rate. So you're going to have to take my word for it. So the average rate for electricity in the US is 12 cents per kilowatt hour, which is significantly more than I pay. But if I was paying that much, I would have saved $76.20 in electricity. This month I did a lot of ride sharing and I actually drove 2,085 miles. It's a little tricky to get the exact amount of kilowatt hours you're putting in the car when you're charging at home, but looking at the efficiency numbers that I had of 293 kilowatt hours per mile, and knowing that I drove a total of 2,085 miles, and also knowing that my electricity rate is a little over 8 cents per kilowatt hour, the ballpark amount that it would have cost me to charge my car would have been $51.11. So how much would that have cost me if I was in a gas-powered car? So gas costs $2.28 per gallon at the gas station nearest me. For comparison, we'll use 27 miles per gallon. That's probably a little ambitious for a comparison of a vehicle like mine. So at 27 miles per gallon, that would have cost me $176.07. So charging the car at home saved me $124.96 compared to a gas-powered car that got 27 miles per gallon. For the cost to be the same, the gas-powered car would have to average about 90 miles per gallon. The current national average for the price of gas is $2.53 per gallon, which is a little more than I pay locally. And if we would have used the same 27 mile per gallon car as a comparison, it would have cost $195.37 in fuel to go the same distance. So even using the national average of 12 cents per kilowatt hour to charge the car, I still would have saved $119.17 based on the national average price of gas to go the same distance. Another thing I should talk about is an agreement I have with my solar installer, Sunpro Solar. They guarantee that my system would produce 10,402 kilowatt hours per year. And they told me that was kind of a conservative estimate, but it's just to give me an idea of what I should be producing. Now that comes out to 28.5 kilowatt hours per day. So that's what I should be averaging. But for this bill period, I was only averaging 19.845 kilowatt hours per day. That being said, this is for a full 365-day period. So I won't have a full year of averages until I've had the system for a year. So they guarantee I'll get 95% of that number. And they also allow for 1% degradation per year for 25 years. Looking at some averages, that would be just about perfect for an average American. And according to the numbers I found, the average American uses 29.5 kilowatt hours per day. And even more interesting, a person from Louisiana averages 40.76 kilowatt hours per day. And with me having an electric vehicle, my high consumption seems like it makes a little more sense now. So for the year starting January 1st, I've produced 774.8 kilowatt hours. And for the life of my system, I've produced 2,458.22 kilowatt hours.